You can't improve what you don't measure. That's a famous saying, isn't it? Who said that? Maybe put it in the comments below if you remember. This week, we're going to talk about the importance of KPIs and benchmarking and how the two work together. Coming right up. So one of the most popular topics on this channel and on my blog is KPIs. Everybody wants to know what's the best KPI for this, what's the best KPI for that. If you look at the playlists on the channel, and I'll copy the playlists down below in the description, we've got a whole playlist on KPIs and benchmarking. I want to talk about, though, the two and how they kind of fit together. And it's really important, I think, in good supply chain management to understand that, how you can really leverage this. So KPIs, we know, really important. You know, if you're not measuring something, you can't improve it. And the right use of KPIs gives us a trend. It gives us a target to aim for. We can see what our performance is like over a given period and how we're performing towards a specific goal. So that's really important. A really simple analogy, at the moment, I'm trying to lose a bit of weight. Again, I've got a big walk coming up and I'm trying to lose some weight. So I actually have a chart set up where I record my weight every day. And one of my KPIs is how many kilograms do I lose each week? And then it all plots a chart and I know what my end goal is and I can see if I'm tracking towards that goal. And because, let's say I'm trying to lose a kilo a week, what's that, 2.2 pounds or something? That's my KPI. If I'm below that, whoa, it's no good. I've got to try and lose a little bit extra the next week. So that's really a very simple example of how we're using KPIs. In supply chains, of course, we're using it for things like costs, cost per ton moved, cost per case picked. We're using it for productivity, how many cases are we picking an hour, and all that type of thing. So it allows us to have a very definite measure of our performance and how we're tracking over time towards a given target. One of the things that people get wrong with KPIs is they kind of measure the wrong stuff, and they also measure too many. So let me just explain that for a second. With KPIs, think about what is the goal or objective that you're trying to achieve. If we are trying to reduce our warehouse cost, for example, and we've identified that our picking productivity needs to improve, then we're going to measure picks per hour or hits per hour or whatever it might be to see if we can improve that. Don't measure stuff that isn't directly linked to the outcome that you're trying to reach. Okay, so whatever the outcome is, look at the things that influence that outcome, and that's what you're going to measure in terms of your KPIs. The other thing is don't have too many. And linked with that, you've got to have the right KPIs for the right level in the organization. So I have seen companies that literally have a book of KPIs being published every month. You need to tailor the KPIs for the level in the organization. The CEO probably wants 2 or 3 supply chain KPIs that are really relevant for that level. The warehouse manager might want half a dozen related to cost and productivity. The transport manager is going to have a different set. So, don't overwhelm people with too many KPIs. Make them very specific to the function and the level in the organization, and maybe just have 5 or 6. So that's a key tip with those. Okay, so how does this all link with benchmarking? Benchmarking is the magical ingredient because you might be aiming, let's pick a simple example again. Let's say I'm trying to get fitter and I'm doing 100-meter sprints in my local park. And, I don't know how long it would take me to run 100 meters, but let's say I'm doing it in 25 seconds. I'm an old guy, not fit. So I'm doing 100 meters in 25 seconds and I'm measuring my KPIs, and hey, after a month I get down to 24 seconds and I'm going, whoa, this is great. Maybe I'm thinking of going into a veterans race for the 100 meters or something like that. What do I need to know? I need to know, well, all those other veterans in that 100-meter sprint, what speed do they run at? Because if they're all running at 18 seconds or 15 seconds, I'm not very good. And in your supply chain, it's exactly the same. You might have your KPI for picking productivity or for costs, and you might think you're going really well because your performance is going up, and you're really happy. But maybe others in your industry are actually here already. Maybe you're at the bottom of the performers. So that's where benchmarking comes in. It allows you to compare your performance with others. Now, it's easier said than done because where do you get those figures from? So a lot of larger companies will benchmark between themselves. So let's say we're benchmarking our KPIs for some sort of warehousing activity. If we've got 8 warehouses in our business, in our network, we can compare the 8 and get a bit of a competition going. What's our picking productivity? What's our cost per case? And we can identify who's doing the best and what are they doing differently that the others aren't doing, and we can use that kind of as our best practice to try and lift the performance of all the others. So that's the internal benchmark. The really powerful stuff, though, is external benchmarking. So let's say you're in a canned goods company and you're looking at your picking productivity in the warehouse. What are other canned goods companies doing? What's the best doing? What's the worst doing? Where do we sit in the ranking of all of that? And that is the really powerful stuff. Why? Because it shows you what's possible. I've seen so many companies just absolutely blow away their performance because they didn't realize, A, how poor their performance was, and B, what was possible. I mean, I've seen in a particular industry where a company was doing 15 lines per hour picking per person. It was complicated products, so I know that's a very low productivity rate. Big, bulky, awkward products. So they were doing 15 lines an hour, and we gradually showed them how they could improve that productivity, and that in fact, 35 or 40 was probably average for the industry. And whoa, they thought, how are we ever going to reach that? But over a process of continuous improvement, they got there, and they went way beyond it, and they got to best-in-class level in their industry, which was something like 55. They went from 15 lines per hour to 55, purely through measuring it. Okay, so they're using the KPIs properly, but the powerful thing was the benchmarking, because that showed them what was possible beyond, their little world outside, in the broader industry. So there we go. That's how KPIs and benchmarking work together. Really important to have the right KPIs, so you're measuring the things that will help you drive towards the outcomes that you want. Think of your objectives. If the KPIs don't, measure things directly, helping you achieve those objectives, why are you measuring them? Get the KPIs right, and then start having a look at benchmarking. Now, I'll see if I can come up with some other resources for you, and I'll put links down below that you can have a look at. But that's the share for this week, KPIs and benchmarking. Thanks for watching, and see you next week. Bye for now.